Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. But before we get started, I really neglected to mention something last week. Last week was the passing of Paul Rubens, mostly best known as Pee Wee Herman. It was really, really tough for a couple reasons. I remember seeing Pee Wee's Big Adventure when it opened in limited release. We saw it like the first day. And later on, when he took the Pee Wee Herman show or the Pee Wee's Playhouse show to Broadway, he actually tested it here in L.A. And long story short, the original show was supposed to be in Hollywood at a small theater, but the tickets sold out so fast they decided to take it to the Nokia Theater downtown, which was much bigger. So the people who bought tickets for the first one were able to not only get first crack at the tickets for the new show, but also we got to do sort of a meet and greet. It was after the show. He came out and talked to everybody, and people could ask him questions and stuff. We were lucky enough to go see it on a Saturday afternoon, so there were actually a lot of a fair number of kids there. And the great thing about what Paul did was he really wanted to ask each of the kids what they thought of the show and everything, and it was really special. And it was a wonderful experience seeing the show live, basically. But it really was sad, and it really hit me really hard because Pee Wee or Paul Rubens was such a huge part of my life between the movie, Pee Wee's Playhouse, which is absolutely incredible. I remember watching that show every Saturday morning. I'm lucky enough to have the Shout Blu-ray that's sadly out of print, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that Shout can get that back into print so that everybody can enjoy the wonderful, stunningly remastered version of the show. But I just wanted to mention that. I forgot to mention it last week. But it was really, really very sad. And but as I always say, the great thing about art, whether it's film, television, paintings, comics, or whatever, the legacy that an artist leaves will continue to inspire generations to come. Like the character of Pee Wee will live on forever. Everybody will always remember Pee Wee because of the show and the movies. And just wanted to point that out this week. So rest in peace, Paul Rubens, and thank you for all the wonderful joy that you gave and will continue to give with rewatching your incredible talent. So with that, we change. I remember to change the books again this week. So we'll go through them really quick. I'll move really quick. I'll move to each side so you can see them. I'll give a quick talk. The Aquaman is from 1968. It's the Search for Mera, which was really a big storyline for Aquaman for its time in the 60s. That's a really wonderful book. The Dragon Slayer is by Jaime Hernandez, from Love and Rockets fame, and it's Latin American children folktale story. It's really good. It's basically kind of, I don't want to say kids book, it's a great all ages book. Really wonderful. You can find that one. The art's incredible and the story's a lot of fun. Grant Morrison and Duncan Fergardo, their take on Kid Eternity from DC Comics. Actually, it was Vertigo book. Really interesting. The Planet of the Apes is really interesting because that's actually an adaptation of the original Rod Serling screenplay, which is very different from the actual film version. Then we have Batman by Doug Munch and Kelly Jones. As you know, I'm a huge Kelly Jones fan. Then we have Get Naked, which was written by Steven Seagal, and done by different artists. And it was an Eisner-nominated book. It was really, really wonderful. That was actually one of the books that got nominated the year I was an Eisner judge, and I really love that book. Definitely check it out. And then finally, we have Hellboy Jr., which is done by a number of different artists: Bill Ray, Stephen DeStefano. It's basically Hellboy is a little kid. It is freaking hilarious. Sadly, I think it's out of print, but it's absolutely, if you can track it down, whether you track down the trade or the individual issues, it is a must read. And hopefully, if it is out of print, hopefully Dark Horse will bring it back into print. But it's a blast. It's kind of a parody of like Harvey comics and kind of kids stories all rolled into one with some great stories and really wonderful art. So that's this week's book, and then of course we have our Be Kind. Thank you, John Barry and Debbie Hogan Barry. For that, they gave that to me at Comic-Con a few weeks ago. As always, be kind to yourself and be kind to each other. We'll do that later in the show. But let's get to the books. It's actually kind of a light week. I mean, it's not super light, but it's not super heavy crazy. So once again, we're going to go through the Night Terrors. We're only going to do the ones that were actually worth reading a second issue. So we'll kind of skip the other ones that weren't particularly compelling in its first round. First up, we have Night Terrors Zatanna #2, written by Dennis Culver, with artwork by David Baldion. So this one is Zatanna called upon Robot Man to come and help because obviously he doesn't sleep because he's just a brain. And but what it was is Insomnia sent the Sleepless Queen and her gang after him, and they turned Robot Man into one of their knights. And so he was going after Zatanna, and then she of course had her own nightmare of her of her father and stuff like that. I actually really like this one. It was definitely one of the better ones. I liked how Culver did the story. It wasn't, once again, we go back to, it wasn't a boohoo story, which was at this point is a huge plus for any of these Dark Knights or Night Terrors that are worth reading the second chapter. It really was an interesting story. I love Zatanna. The really big win is Baldion's artwork, which is absolutely stunning. It's a really great looking book. And it had a solid story, so definitely one of the ones to check out. Excuse me. Next we have Night Terrors Green Lantern #2, written by Jeremy Adams, with artwork by Eduardo Pancia, Jordi Tarragona, and Julio Fiera. And then there's the Sinestro backup story by Alex Segura and Mario Ficcoli. So this is actually one of the few that actually somewhat incorporated the story from Green Lantern, because Green Lantern had 2 issues and then went into the Night Terrors. I still don't know what DC was thinking with the timing on releasing a bunch of new books right before doing this. But it's one of the few that actually somewhat continued the story from the second issue through here. In a lot of ways, it was a little boohooey, but the main crux of this second part is of course, Hal's, any Green Lantern, the power of the ring is your willpower. And of course, as we know, Hal has a lot of willpower, and really he uses his willpower to fight his nightmares. And while I wouldn't say it was necessarily one of my favorites, I will definitely give props to Adams for, somewhat continuing the story a bit from the initial 2 issues. The artwork by the 3 different artists is actually pretty good. I didn't see a huge... I mean, yes, there's different styles, but it wasn't jarring or anything. The Sinestro backup really just kind of left me cold. It was kind of okay. It didn't really do much. That was kind of the big problem. It wasn't terrible. It just kind of like, that's nice, but move on. So I wouldn't say that it was one of my favorite or one of the better Night Terrors, but I think it was decent. If you had read the first 2 issues of Green Lantern, you could read this and feel like it wasn't just like, oh, here they threw 2 issues in. So next up we have Night Terror's Shazam #2, written by Mark Waid, with art with pencils by Roger Cruz, with inks by Wellington Diaz. So once again, this was kind of one of the better ones, and it was really because Mary has the power of Shazam, and it really focused on her nightmare of things happening to the family, which, you know, really has been a lot of the key of the Shazam Captain Marvel stories lately. And so what it is she figures out how to battle her demons, and then she also figures out that she can go to the other kids and help them with their demons, and then, you know, she's able to give in their dreams the power of Shazam back to them, which has been kind of one of the things in the story, that Mary is currently the only one who has the Shazam powers besides Billy, and Billy's off, you know, somewhere. Once again, Wade does a really nice job here. The artwork by Cruz and Diaz is really nice. It was definitely, once again, one of the better ones. So I really enjoyed this, and can't wait till we get back to the regular Shazam series next month. Next up, we have Dwellings #1, written and drawn by Jay Stevens. Now, what this is a collection he had done, like, I believe it's Indiegogo or like Kickstarter. It's one of the funding, crowdfunding things. And so what it is it's it's an homage to like Harvey Comics and stuff like that visually. Harvey, Archie, and those kind of things. It has a very cartoony style, but they're really dark stories. It may on the surface kind of look like a kid's book, but it is far from a kid's book. So what this does is Ani's, he's doing 6 issues. This collects the first 2 issues of basically his self-published book. So it has 2 stories. The first one is They Know, which is that story is about these crows that come into, so this guy is in witness protection program, and one of the mob's, you know, flunkies just notices him, sees him, and he defends himself and he kills the guy. Excuse me. And so what it is, these crows see it, and, you know, they point out the crows are really smart. And so basically, in his mind, the crows convince him to like start killing other people. He thinks he becomes a crow, and it kind of goes downhill from there for him. It is a really wild story and really, really wonderful. The second story is Second Tongue, where this girl Dawn, you know, she's studying to be a psychologist, and she comes across this guy Brandon, who basically has gone nuts. And what she finds out, that there was this ritual where there was supposed to be a sacrifice, but it didn't quite happen, and he's possessed by this spirit of Nico. And once again, it kind of goes downhill from there. And like I said, visually, these look like Harvey Comics, but they're as far from like Harvey Comics as you can get. I really enjoyed this. It is $9.99, but I think you get 2 solid stories. And the other great thing is that he does like, you'll see, he does like ads and stuff for like stuff that from that period, like the 60s and 70s ads. There's parodies of those. It's really great. And like I said, it's a little pricey, but I think it's well worth picking up. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. Next up, we have The Madness #1. Written by J. Michael Straczynski, with art by Aiko. So what this is Sarah, who's kind of, I don't want to say superheroes, but she has superpowers. And what she has been, and her powers are, she has multiple powers, but she can only use one at a time. And so, basically, to support her family, she robs, she does the Robin Hood thing. She robs from the rich to support her poor family. And so she gets a tip that there's this Sheik Al-Fisi, who is fleeing his country because he's being targeted by the prince. and he's got $1 billion worth of gold. And so she it's found out that he's on, it'll be out in the middle of nowhere, and she can take him out. And so she does, and then she converts the gold to money. And so what it is the prince of the country tells the government, hey, you need to take care of this, because this is a problem that's going to affect our relationship. It's going to affect the soldiers that are in your soldiers in our country. So the president basically tells the superhero group that they need to take Sarah out, and because the government can't officially do it. And so what it is they end up killing her family, because they're out in kind of the sticks. And so now she's pissed, and this is where the story goes. And I actually really, really enjoyed this. It's been a while since Straczynski has written a book. And, once again, I think the premise is pretty basic, but he does a lot of really good things with it. You get to know Sarah pretty well. So when, the tragedy happens, you're like, oh, crap, that sucks. And it's really interesting. And the other big win for this book is Eiko's artwork. It's really, really a good looking book. Like I said, this is a great start to this story, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Straczynski and Eiko have done a great job in this first issue, so I'm really intrigued to see where they take this story with the second issue. Next up, we have Barnstormers #2, written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Tula Lote. So I do want to mention that this Barnstorming it started out as kind of it was a digital series on Amazon Comixology. So it actually won the Eisner for Best Original digital comic, so that's a plus. I've been really digging this. So what Dark Horse is doing is they're basically printing two issues at one time. So it's actually a really good deal for $5. Yep, it's $5. So you get two issues for kind of the price of one. And this issue, so you have Tilly and Bix. So Bix is a Barnstormer, and he somewhat he doesn't kidnap Tilly, but she's being forced to marry Peyton, who's basically the bad guy. And so they've gone on this kind of Bonnie and Clyde type thing, where they steal from the rich and give barnstorming to like the poor, like as entertainment. And so of course Peyton's pissed that Tilly's gone, and so that's where this issue continues. I don't want to give too much away, but I really, really like this book a lot. I'm a big fan of Lote's artwork, and Scott Snyder's written a really interesting story. I'm a sucker for period pieces, so that's a big plus. But it's a really interesting story, in the way that Snyder's developing the characters is really good. Once again, I wouldn't say that the story is particularly original, but it's the way that Snyder and Lote are doing the story that is really making this book work really well. Definitely worth checking out. I know you can read it digitally, but I much prefer the reading in print. And Dark Horse has done a great job of doing print on this. So definitely check this book out. Next up, we have World's Finest Teen Titans #2, written by Mark Waid with artwork by Emanuela Lupacchino. So this issue really centers around Donna Troy, Wonder Girl. She's in the city, and this is kind of all new to her, being from Theraschema, and she comes, she befriends this guy, Mel Duncan, who's staying with her, while he's, trying to get a job and stuff. And she's very honest. She's like, he knows she's Wonder Girl and stuff. And so that is kind of the setup. But what it is, they get called to this haunted house where there's a girl that's missing, Daisley Flores. And what it is she's developed kind of psychic abilities, and So what it is when the Titans go in to kind of help, they're trying to find her in the house, that they basically, because of her psychic ability gone wild, they're it's not so much they're having nightmares, it's it's like a haunted house in their head. And so it's a really interesting story. I think what I like about this book the most is that Wade is really just having fun with the Titans. So it's interesting because it's almost like it's set in the 60s per se, with the tone of the story and stuff, but it's set in the modern day. So it's kind of like old school Titans, but in the present day, which I think is really quite interesting. Lou Pacino's artwork is really, really nice. Like I said, I think what I like about it is, in a lot of ways, the book's kind of really simple and fun. And that's, I think, a big plus for this book, that it's just, it's not this big epic in a lot of ways. It's just very, kind of character driven. And I also like how each issue, he's kind of, focusing on a different Titan, and the relationship with the rest of the team, which is like been a big plus. So I'm really enjoying it. So definitely still worth checking out. Next up, we have Swan Songs #2, written by W. Maxwell Prince, with artwork by Casper Weingard. So what this is each issue is its own story. So this issue has John and Eileen, they're getting a divorce, and it shows how they met and how their life was, and how ultimately it just didn't work out. But what's also interesting is what Prince does is they have these fantasy of them fighting, like they go back to medieval times where they're that, and then there's a Kirby sequence where they both have superpowers and stuff. But it really is it's just a simple story about relationships and how difficult they are, and how everything starts off really great and everything, but then sometimes things just don't work out. And it really was just quite moving in a lot of ways. And it's a great character study, and Wingard's artwork is absolutely amazing. I love how like he did different styles for like the kind of fantasy sequence. The use of color was really amazing on the book. And the other big win for this, it's a one and done. You don't have to read the first issue. You can totally read this issue by itself. And that I love. You don't see a lot. In a way, it's kind of an anthology, but individual issue anthology. Definitely well worth checking out. I really love the second issue. I like the first issue. Second issue was just as good, if not even better. So definitely check that out. And like I said, you can pick up the second issue and you're good. Next up, we have Mech Cadets #1, written by Greg Pak, with Takashi, with artwork by, Takashi Mizuwa. I know I pronounced that wrong. I certainly apologize. So what this is, the original Mech Cadet series is being adapted for Netflix. So this new story does kind of follow from the first story, but you can jump right in. Pack is really good about giving you enough information, who the characters are, what the setup is. The basic story is that that the Mech Cadets, it's kind of like it's basically like think of like Pacific Rim with Jaggers, and each person is connected to their armor or robot. And so what it is in the first series, that there was this alien race, the Sharg, that basically the Mech Cadets stopped. But this, like I said, takes place after that, with a possible new threat, or it's the Sharg again that's a little different. But it's once again, I this is not gonna blow your mind or anything, but it's a fun, good all ages book, and that is really its plus. And I can see why it was adapted into like a series that Netflix picked up, because it has a lot of elements. You have kind of the teen characters, and their relationships with each other, and then there's Olivia, who's like the leader of the Mech Cadets. Her dad is like the army chief that runs the Mech Cadets. and she's strong-headed just like her dad. So once again, I enjoy the book for what it is, and I think what I like about it is Pack is not. It's a very simple story, and he just keeps it really focused, and that is one of the reasons why it works so well. Like I said, it's just a fun book, and I always appreciate good all ages books. So this is definitely something that can be read by anybody pretty much. Next up, we have Kaya, number 10, written and drawn by Wes Craig. Once again, I go back to, this is the best book you're not reading right now. So Jin has been kidnapped, and so he's trying to make a deal to escape. So he's having these like dreams, or kind of delusional dreams, because he's kind of dying. I mean, he hasn't probably eaten and stuff, and he's just this has been a long journey with him being kidnapped, and so there's that going on. Then Kaya has an unexpected ally with one of the gang members that got cut loose because he effed up, and so she's allies with him, and so there's that going on. But what I just love this book. It's the story's great. It's really kind of a grand epic tale, but really a really good all ages book. I mean, the story's great, the art's great. It's just, you need to be buying this book. I know there is a trade of the first 5 issues, which is the first story arc, and then I'm sure there's going to be a trade collecting the second story arc, but it really, you need to be checking out this book. It just doesn't get much better than this. I cannot recommend this book enough, and definitely, if you have not read it, definitely go buy the first trade of it. It's really, really good. Next up, we have Godzilla Here There Be Dragons, number 2, written by Frank Terry, with artwork by Inca Miranda. So what this is set, during the Spanish era, back in the day. And so what it is this guy who's been captured is telling this story to the guards, about how they just how they found Godzilla and how they discovered Monster Island. And once again, it's like during the Spanish War, so they just have muskets and they ain't got much. And so he also tells them that the Spanish fleet was wiped out by Godzilla, and they're like, yeah, you're crazy. What I like about this is it's so different. It's not just another kind of Godzilla story. I think what I like about this is Terry has set it in such a different period that, they don't have like powerful weapons. I also like the fact that he's, yes, it has Godzilla in it, but I like the fact that he's gone to Monster Island, which, you don't see. And he's also kind of, doing all that stuff and it's really just a lot of fun. I mean, basically most of the Godzilla comics are pretty basic. I mean, it's Godzilla, for Christ's sake. But, I think Terry has done a really just intriguing spin on just another Godzilla story. Miranda's artwork's really nice. It's a really good looking book. I've seen some reviews where they're not liking it, but I like it because it is different. Maybe that's why people aren't liking it. Oh, it's not just, yet another typical Godzilla kaiju destroying Tokyo sort of story. But I like it. I think it's worth checking out. And then finally this week we have Danger Street, number 8, written by Tom King with artwork by George Fornes. So once again, I will go, I love this book to death, but you cannot just start reading it. You really have to read it from the beginning. Now there is, I don't know if it's out yet. There is going to be a trade of the first 6 issues, which is the first part of the first half of this story arc. So that if you've been missing it, you can catch up that way. But we're kind of, each issue is based on, there was a 70s book called First Issue Specials, and so what King is doing, he's using all these characters in the here, and so once again, there's a lot. It's all kind of character study, but it's all leading up where all these separate, heroes, villains, and everything, they're all the stories all intertwined, and we're slowly starting to see how this is all coming together. And we see it kind of in this issue where we get to see the origin, or what he has created, the origins of the Outsiders in the Green Team. And it's really, like I said, it's a very fascinating book. It's a huge book of character study. Saying that George Fornes is knocking out of the park is a huge understatement. This is really an amazing book, but it's one of those that you really have to really keep up on and continue to read. It's also going to be one of those great books, like a lot of King's books, that when you go back and reread it, it's gonna blow you away even more. I love this book to death, but like I said, you cannot just pick up a random issue and figure out what the heck is going on, because there's like tons of characters and the story's really deep, but I love it to death, and it's definitely well worth checking out as long as you've read the first 7 issues. That's going to do it this week. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store. There's Annie, there's Wendy, there's Derek. It's really great. Check out the Pulp Fiction Comics Long Beach Facebook group. Everybody, we all post stuff there. It's really great. Derek kind of runs the social media stuff, and definitely, if you're in the Long Beach area, definitely check out the store. It's a really good store. He offers discounts on trades, graphic novels, all ages books. They have a nice section of manga. Annie runs the manga selection. And also they have a subscription service, so that way you don't miss any of your issues. You just put your order in, then he gets it for you. And always make sure you support your local comic shop. They're the backbone of the industry. And remember, they have to pay for the books before you get them. So definitely make sure you pick up your books that you order, or your toys or shirts or whatever you order. Make sure you pick it up on a timely basis, because they've already paid for it. So, and as always, we end our show with be kind. Be kind to each other, and really be kind to yourself. I know things are really tough. Life can be crazy. The world can be crazy. But just being kind to yourself and to others really makes a huge difference. It will make a huge difference in your life. Kindness doesn't cost anything. That's the big thing. We all struggle with money. I get it. But kindness doesn't cost anything. Just, open a door, say hi, smile at people, just be kind. It'll do both you and everyone else, good. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. I'm still trying to work on the reviews for the ones I missed, for San Diego Comic-Con. It's been really crazy at work and just life and everything. But I'm still hoping to get those done. I know it'll be kind of late and everybody will have read them all by then, but hopefully I'll be able to get that done this weekend. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Comments are welcome. Thanks. There's been some new subscribers this week. Thanks for joining us. And as always, if you have any comments, just let me know. If things are going well, or I point out something wrong or something, hey, let me know. I'm always willing to like correct myself, because I'm not perfect. None of us are. Once again, that's like being kind. Be kind. You be kind to each other, and be kind to yourself. That's going to do it this week. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you again next week with more comic book reviews. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.